Today's video is sponsored by Kunai Threads. Whether it's a Blackbeard playmat, a Shanks shirt, or even a Doflamingo pickleball set, they've got you covered. Use code JohnnyTCG and hit the link in my bio to get 5% off your entire order. Thank you, Kunai Threads, for sponsoring this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Johnny TCG video. I'm Johnny TCG. I'm happy to see you here today. And today we're taking a look at the leader that started it all, Starter Deck 1, Monkey D. Luffy. Now, this is probably, I think, technically the oldest leader in the game. Starter Deck 1, first leader that came out with super pre-release events and whatnot. And I gotta say, it still holds up. He's still pretty strong. You're going to be surprised if you give this deck a shot how strong he really is into the current landscape, into the current meta. Of course, he's not going to be meta shifting. You're probably not going to win a regionals. You're probably not going to win a treasure cup with him. But if you take him to locals, you are going to catch people off guard. I've been playing a lot of red Shanks recently, and I recalled a video real_Joshua made talking about how this deck is kind of like Shanks, but in like a different, more offensive way. And so I decided to give him a shot. I took a look at some decks I found on the East. They were running a lot of the Red Hair Shanks package. As you can see, this deck looks very similar to what a Red Hair Shanks deck would look like, but it plays a little bit differently. I still think you're going to enjoy it. Real_Joshua's list definitely inspired me to include the Rayleighs. The Rayleighs were not included in the original list I based this off of. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, of course we got to put Rayleighs in. Rayleigh is a beast. Honestly, spoiler alert, I would probably bump Rayleigh up to 4 perhaps and maybe get rid of the 9-cost Whitebeard. Or maybe we switch the 9-cost Whitebeard for a dragon. Moral of the story is I don't love Whitebeard in this deck, but we'll get to that later. Those that don't know, Monkey D. Luffy is a mono red leader, 5,000 power, the typical stat line basically, and then he has the ability of activate main once per turn. You may take a rested Don and then attach it to either your leader or one of your characters. This goes crazy. It's way better than I expected. That extra 1,000 power can really screw up what your opponent is trying to do, especially when they have to give you more counter than they initially would think. For example, if you play down a 4-cost body, give a Don to your leader, you're swinging 6. This is above and beyond what you should be able to do on curve, meaning you get to stay on curve by playing decent sized bodies that correlate with your Don, but you also get to swing for 6,000. Huge. There's probably a lot of ways you can build this leader, honestly. You could probably go with a Straw Hats package. You could probably go with like a Whitebeard Pirates package. Just a lot of generically good ways. I bet some of the cards in Starter Deck 21 will go very nicely in this deck. But so far for me, the Red Hair Pirates package does feel the best. These cards are just so strong, like it's hard not to play them. Today we're going to do a deck breakdown. We're going to take a look at the deck list, talk about some cards and potential changes you might want to make. Then we're going to do a giveaway. Of course, we've got a custom giveaway. If you're new to the channel, we do a custom giveaway in just about every video. Today we're going to be giving away a custom Egghead Luffy Don. You're going to want to check that out. And then of course we've got games on the sim. We're going to test this deck out, see how it does, and then talk about it afterwards, seeing how we feel about it. Starting off, we have 2 OP01 Otamas, 1 cost, 0 power, 2k counter, which we really like, and then she has a ton of utility. On play, give one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power. This combos perfectly with our Marco, our Rayleigh, our Ben Beckman, our Whitebeard. The list goes on and on. This has a ton of synergy. Honestly, maybe you should be playing this at 4 of just because it can combo with so many cards. We're running 4 of the 2-cost 3,000 power Sanjis from OP01, 2k counter, which is very nice, and then he also can be a viable attacker with his ability, activate main once per turn, take the top card of your life. You then get to give him 2 of your rested Don and then plus 2,000 power as well. So he's going to be a 7,000 power attacker. This is great to put pressure on your opponent early on in the game. It's also a great way to reduce your life if your opponent is trying to starve you. I'm looking at UNL. I've been loving 4 of in this deck. At the end of the day, he can just be used as a 2k counter. So if you don't use his ability, that's fine too. 2 3-cost OP01 Zoros. This is a card I have been enjoying in this deck more than other decks because with our leader ability, you're actually able to make him a 6,000 power body. If you're on the odd curve, you can swing 5,000 with leader, then 6,000 with Zoro, or even better, if you're on the even curve, you can swing 6,000 with leader, then 6,000 with Zoro. 2 6,000 attacks on your second turn is going to be so annoying for your opponent to deal with. I like him a lot. 2 seems like the right number just because you're mostly going to want to play him on turn 2, and after that, he's not amazing. 2 9-cost 10,000 power Whitebeards. On play, give your leader plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Then he has the when attacking of Don times 2. KO one of your opponent's characters with a power of 3000 or less. This is pretty solid, but I just haven't been loving him in this deck. I'd rather be a little bit more aggressive, and yeah, I don't think he's absolutely amazing, and that's why I'm considering taking him out and going either with 2 Monkey D. Dragons or 2 Silver Israelis. Both of those 8 drops are just so strong, I think they're a little bit more valuable than the plus 2000 power on defense that this card gives you. 4 5 cost 6000 power Marcos from OP03. This card is a beast. It's a great way to get rid of some of your opponent's early game characters that will be a little bit annoying and you have to get rid of and address. It's also a great way to get rid of chump blockers. You can combine him with a Yasab, you can combine him with an Otama. I think there's a lot of ways for this card to be used. He does have the on KO ability to trash an event card from your hand and then play him back to the field as rested. This is like okay, it can be very good considering the situation, but I don't find myself using it all the time. We're running 2 of the 10 cost 12,000 power Shanks from OP06. This is the KO Shanks that on play allows you to pop one of your opponent's characters with a power of 10,000 or less. I really like this card in the current meta just because there's so many big bodies that are annoying to deal with. When you play a 10 cost Shanks, you can use leader ability and still swing for 6,000, which is very nice as well. I'm happy with 2 of these in my deck. Next, 2 Silver Israeli. Again, I think you can bump this up to 3 or 4. He's just such a beast in this current meta. If you've played OP09 Shanks, I don't even have to convince you just how good this card is. Give him a shot. You're gonna enjoy him, maybe even bump him up to 3 or 4. And for those that don't know, on play, minus 2,000 power to one of your opponent's characters, minus 2,000 to another until the start of your next turn, and then you get to pop a 3,000 power character or less. That popping one does not have to be one of the ones you minus 2, so you can minus 2 and then pop a third one, which is absolutely crazy. 4 red hair pirate searchers with Uta from OP09. I really like this since we're playing so many red hair Shanks cards. We want a little bit of consistency in this deck just to find some of the pieces that we need depending on the situation. There's not a lot for me to say about her. 3 of the 10 cost 12,000 power rush Shanks from OP09. This card is a beast, gives all of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power. Once you get him on the board, it's going to be tough for your opponent to deal with him. Yeah, what do you want me to say about him? He's just an absolute beast. 4 5 cost 6,000 power Silver Israeli from OP09. It's got 1k counter, which is nice, and he's mostly used as a late game blocker. His on play allows you to draw 2 trash 1 if your opponent has 2 characters with 5,000 power or more. This is especially good in the late game because that's when that criteria is likely to be met. Early game, that criteria might not be met, so you're not going to get as much value with him if you play him on curve. But at the end of the day, he's still a 6k blocker that you could play on 5 Don. You could use leader ability to then give yourself 1 Don and swing for 6. That's pretty solid. 3 Ben Beckman. Who doesn't love Ben Beckman? 7 cost 7,000 power with 1k of counter. On play, you get to trash one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. This is huge. This hits a lot of cards in the current meta. I would definitely recommend running him at least 3 just because on curve he is an absolute beast. 4 Yasabs from OP09. 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k of counter. On play, he gives your leader plus 1,000 power, which is great. You're going to be able to combine that with your leader ability if you're playing him on curve, so then you're going to be swinging 7,000 power. Then he's got the when attacking Don times 1, give one of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power. That's great, especially if you play him on 5 and then our 7 cost Edward Newgate on 7. This allows you to pop a 6,000 power character or less. Who doesn't love that? 4 of the 3 cost 3,000 power Lime Juice from OP09. A 2k counter for the most part, but he does have utility in the fact that his on play allows you to negate one of your opponent's blockers with a power of 4,000 or less for the turn. This is going to help you go for game. Honestly though, I think you can consider cutting him down maybe 1 and going with another Otama just to keep that 2k there, but also Otama has a lot of viability and utility in this deck as well. But 4 feels nice. He's our only searchable 2k, which is why I guess I don't really want to cut him down to any less than 4, but I'd hear you out. 1 Gold D. Roger, the man, the myth, the legend, the Pirate King himself. 10 cost 13,000 power, rush, and then the ability that if you or your opponent are at 0 life, if your opponent activates blocker, they just lose. Crazy power. This card is great. Just 1 of is fine though. You're not going to need him in most matches, but when you need him, you're going to want to have him. 2 1 cost 1,000 power Tony Chopper blockers from Starter Deck 01. This is just kind of a little bit of a chump blocker to keep in the deck if you need a 1 cost blocker. Unfortunately, a 1 cost blocker does get bounced pretty easily by a lot of things in the current meta. I'm looking at you, Trafalgar Law 4 cost. I'm looking at you, Jozu. I'm looking at you. Everything basically. There's so many cards that can get rid of this. I definitely think he can be put on the chopping block and considered for other things, maybe counter events perhaps. So yeah, I don't love him. 2 of the starter deck 15 Edward Newgates, 7 cost, 8,000 power with the on play of giving one of your leaders or characters 1 rested Don. Then he's got the activate main to rest him and pop a 5,000 character or less. We love to see him on curve, especially if we can combo him with the Yasab. Not like the most important card in the deck, but still a very good card nonetheless. I really like him, and I think 2 is a good number. We're running 1 Radical Beam. Who doesn't love Radical Beam? Maybe this should be a 2 or 3 of. 1 cost for plus 4,000 power, barring that you're at 2 life or less, is really strong. And yeah, late game, this is going to be huge for you. Then we're running 4 of the 0 cost counters. 4 might be dramatic. Maybe we go to 3, but we do have a lot of bricks in this deck, so it is good to get value out of them. 0 cost, 3,000 counter, Bad Manners Kick Course. Good card. Some other cards you can consider running in this deck, at least for myself, is number 1 Lucky Roo, the 4 cost 5,000 power Red Hair Pirates blocker. This goes with your Red Hair Pirates theme, and yeah, just a nice blocker to have. Maybe getting rid of the choppers is a good idea. We've got 5 cost 6,000 power Monkey D Luffy from starter deck 1. This card is still a beast. I think he's fallen out of popularity just because Goldie Roger now kind of takes his place. But he is not to be slept on. He's got Rush, and then he's got the ability of Don times 2 when attacking. Your opponent cannot activate blocker for this battle, so he's the perfect late game finisher. And then of course Gum Gum Redhawk does have a good argument to be put in this deck in the current meta. 2 cost plus 4,000 power, and then it lets you pop one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. Now, since you're not Shanks, you're not able to turn one of your opponent's 5,000 power characters into a 4,000 power character, which does feel kind of bad and makes me not want to run this in this deck. But of course, there are some decent 4,000 power or less targets you can go after. For example, Teach in a Dofi deck, or a Chump Blocker in another deck like Nami and Purple Luffy. I really enjoyed this deck, and I really would love to hear your feedback on it. If you've played this deck before, I would love to hear what cards you're running that maybe I'm not running. I think if you really enjoy Shanks but want to switch it up a little bit, you could play this deck and still have a great time. Before we get into the gameplay, of course, we've got a giveaway for you. Today, we're going to be giving away a custom Egghead Luffy Don. Editor, throw it up on screen. Boom. Look at that holographic. Look at that sparkle. All you have to do to enter this giveaway is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. If this video gets 15 likes in the first 24 hours, I'm sending it to 1 US-based commenter completely free. All you got to do is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. I am not the artist. This is straight from the manga. I'm not selling this. This is just a fun personal project. I'm not claiming to be the artist. If you want it, like, comment, and if you want to support the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Help the channel out. Stay up to date with every single Johnny TCG upload. It's that simple. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, and yeah, that's enough of me yapping. Editor, roll the gameplay. Our first game of the day is going to be against a Blue Boa Hancock from OP07. I do think this matchup's going to be pretty hard. Our first hand is not really amazing, but we're going to keep it anyway. We do have that Uta turn 1 play, which we really like. We find the Ben Beckman, which will be really helpful in this matchup. They're going to start off with a buggy play to sort the top cards of their deck, and we are just going to swing big with our leader. No 3-down play here for us. 8,000 at them. I imagine they'll take this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they gave us 2 2Ks, and there we go. 2 2Ks out of their hand. If they play Gecko Moria, they'll be able to get those right back. And to maximize Boa's leader ability, you have to keep a low hand size. They're going to do a Jinbei Trafalgar Law play, bouncing back their own buggy and then bouncing back my Uta. I'm just going to counter their 5,000 power leader swing with that Uta. We already got some value out of it, and I don't know if I'm going to play it again this game. We're going to play down the Yasab on turn 5, which we love. Now we can swing 7,000 at their leader. We'll be a 6,000 leader on their turn, which is really strong too. They'll have to add down to their characters if they want to swing at us, which means they can't play a 6-cost body on curve. 5,000 at us with Jinbei. They may not have realized that we do have that plus 1,000 buff from Yasab. That happens to the best of us. Now for 6 down, they're going to play the Jozu, pop back their Jinbei, and then send our Yasab back to our hand. Now we have a huge hand right now, which is really dangerous if they play Pudding. I'm thinking that Edward Newgate is the best play here, giving a Don to our leader, and then we can pop their Trafalgar Law with Newgate's ability. Using leader ability, we can now swing for 7, which is so strong. They're going to give us 2 cards out of hand. We have not really made much progress in getting to their life. Then they hit us with the starter deck 3 Doflamingo 7 drop that can bounce our Newgate back to hand. Man, does that feel bad. I was really hoping we could keep that Newgate on the board at least for 1 or 2 more turns just to get some more value out of it. Now I'm debating on putting it back on the field, but it doesn't really do much for us, and it could get hit with the red rock, so we're going to go with the 5 cost Silver's Rayleigh blocker, filter our hand a little bit. We're looking for our big bodies like our 8 cost Rayleigh and 10 cost Shanks. We're going to play the Uta Searcher, get a 2k Lime Juice, and then we're just going to swing big. We can give a Rested Don to our leader and swing 9,000 into the Jozu. Maybe I should have pressured life a little bit more, but I was really hoping to get rid of that Jozu. It would have relieved a lot of pressure off of us. They do counter out of that. That feels a little bit bad. 10 Don for them to work with. A 10 drop Kaido that bounces back. Both my characters would go crazy here. Putting would also hurt pretty badly, but I also wouldn't be opposed to cycling out my hand a little bit. We're going to use the 0 cost event to get out of this 7,000 swing from their Jozu. Maybe I should have kept that in my hand and used the Rayleigh blocker, because now they're going to play down the Jozu and pop that Rayleigh blocker back to hand, which feels really bad. They'll do Jinbei into Law, bouncing my Uta back to hand. We can just use that Uta Searcher as counter, which is fine with us. Then we will take the 7,000 power swing from their Doflamingo. In hindsight, I think maybe I should have countered out of that Doflamingo swing with a 2k and a 1k, but what's done is done. We're going to play down Rayleigh to pop their Jinbei, and then we're going to swing 9,000 into the Doflamingo. Hopefully they don't have the counter, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. They do. They've got the counter to keep it alive. Now they're going to be able to pressure us with 2 big bodies or 2 decently sized bodies, and then potentially leader. A 10 drop would hurt really bad. 10 drop Kaido or 9 drop Mihawk would also hurt. 9,000 at us with Doflamingo, and now I'm like, oh my god, why did I not counter out of that 7,000 one when I get the chance? They might just really try to push me to the brink of lethal this turn, putting a lot of pressure on my life. They'll do 7,000 now with Jozu, and we will counter out of that one. We learned our lesson. They have another Jozu they can play, and they're just going to be doing that for the card draw, really, because they can't bounce my Ben Backman back to hand. Then with their remaining 2 Don, they've got the 1 cost Trafalgar Law blocker and a 1 cost Sengoku. With the Sengoku, they will find another 1 cost Trafalgar Law blocker, just setting up some chump blockers, which will be annoying. Passing it back to me, we still cannot find any big bodies. I think a 10 cost Shanks would go crazy here. We do have the 5 cost Marco, which is an interesting option. We'll be able to get rid of their Trafalgar Law blocker, which is very nice. We're going to play that down, pop the Law blocker, and now they're going to do another Sengoku search and find the starter deck 3 Trafalgar Law 1 cost blocker again. They found another one. They're going to play the 7 cost Dofi to bounce back our Rayleigh blocker, and now 7,000 at us with the Jozu. We've got to counter out of this. The question for me now is, which 1k do I trash for counter? The Rayleigh or the Ben Beckman? I'm going to go with the Ben Beckman just because 6,000 is a little bit of an awkward number, and we might want to use the Silver's Rayleigh blocker again to get some card draw and look for our big bodies and just have a blocker on the field, even though they could easily bounce that blocker back to my hand most likely. Now 7,000 with their Boa, and we are going to counter out of this as well. We are trying to keep a healthy life total, and we get the perfectly timed Silver's Rayleigh. Might not save us the game, but still a great card to find right now, lowering the power of the Doflamingo and then the Jozu. We're going to pop a Sengoku, and hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, we can get this Jozu off the board by swinging into it. We're going to start with a 5,000 into a 5,000. We've got 2 down to work with, technically 3 because we can use leader ability, but we do want to keep 1 Don up to leave up for radical beams to stay a little bit more defensive this turn. We're going to do 7,000 with Ben Beckman, and thankfully that gets the job done. We're actually going to leave another Don up just in case we get a radical beam off of life. I think it's a good idea to keep that up. It doesn't really matter too much. They did take that 7,000 swing from Marco, which is great news. 6,000 into our Marco, and do I counter out of this? I think not. I will, but in hindsight, I think I disagree with this play. I don't know, maybe. I really don't know what to do here, folks. Let me know what you would do. I think the Silver's Rayleigh might have been the move to counter out, just because that would have forced them to swing into the Marco with their 7-cost Dofi and give Don to it. So that was my logic here, is forcing them to give Don to Dofi, which then would prevent them from playing other big bodies. Then they're going to throw down 3 Law Blockers, which is absolutely insane. I do kind of regret getting rid of the Silver's Rayleigh. I mean, if I didn't get rid of Silver's Rayleigh, then I would only have 1 body on the board, but I'd be able to set up 2 blockers this turn and draw a card using Rayleigh's ability, so that does feel kind of nice, or it would have felt really nice. I wasn't able to do that, of course. I'm just trying to figure out how much I should be swinging for this turn to maximize my attacks. I don't want to just go 7 and 7 with Marco and Beckman, because I don't want to swing like 10,000 with Luffy. We're going to start off with 8,000 with Marco. They will block that. Now we're going to go 8,000 with Ben Beckman. They will block that. This 3 blocker turn is absolutely ridiculous. Now we're going to go 8,000 with our Luffy. We can't play down the Tony Chopper before we swing into their life, because if they take that and get a trigger to bottom deck the Chopper, that'll feel real bad. They're going to have the 4-cost Crocodile to bounce my Tony Chopper back to hand, and this is bad news, folks. They're going to swing 9,000 with Doflamingo into Ben Beckman. I think I should have let it go. Unfortunately, if I do counter out of this with Radical Beam, they will know that they can just automatically get this Ben Beckman off the board if they just swing 7,000 at it, because they know the 1 card in my hand isn't counter. At the same time, I was thinking it's kind of like saving my life, because if I let the Ben Beckman go, they probably would have swung into my life. Maybe. They might have swung into the Marco. We do have the 10-cost Shanks, which is really helpful right now. I have to take the 5,000 swing from Crocodile. Now they're going to swing 5,000 with their Sengoku, and we can counter out of that, which is nice. We have the 1k counter. If we take that and hope for a 1k off of life, that is just too risky for my liking. Now they can swing 6,000 with Boa, or they're just 5,000 if they remember that I only have the Tony Chopper blocker in my hand that doesn't have any counter. So we'll see if they remember that. They might also be debating playing another 1-cost Law blocker. They've got a ton of those. I'm actually thinking about calling over a judge and doing a deck check real quick. Okay, that wasn't that funny, folks. It's still early in the morning. I'm only halfway through my cup of coffee. Cut me some slack, please. We get the Goldie Roger, which is interesting. A rush card that we can maybe win the game with. If we throw this up, if they put the Trafalgar Law blocker out, we can play the Goldie Roger, which makes it so they cannot use their Law blocker. We'll have to swing 6, 6, 13 though, and what are the odds that they do not find a 2k or have multiple 1ks in their hand? That is very unlikely. Off the Sengoku search, they will get the Trafalgar Law 4-cost from starter deck 17, which does have 1k of counter. I'm thinking about if there's any other path to victory here, and there's really not. We could play down the 1-cost Tony Chopper blocker, and that's just going to get popped. With the Sengoku standing, they just have the numbers anyway, so it's a Goldie Roger turn, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Hail Mary. We're going for it. 6,000 with Marco. Are they going to take this? Please tell me they're bricked up in their hand and only have that 1k of counter. Moment of truth, the drum roll, please. Everyone's waiting. Everyone's thinking, do they have it? The people need to know they do. They have the 2k, and that is just GG's. There is no point in me swinging for the rest of the game, because we got cooked, ladies and gentlemen. That's all right. Our first game of the day with starter deck 1 Luffy. We are going to bounce back. We've got a game against Perona, which is a pretty off-meta leader. You know that I love myself some Wano Perona, so we'll see what version of Perona they are running. Our opening hand was absolutely garbage, and so we have to mulligan, and this next hand is pretty interesting. I do really like the idea of Yasab on turn 3 to boost our leader, even though it will likely die due to their cost reduction, Ryuma popping shenanigans. They're going to start off with a 6,000 power swing, and I actually have to take that. I don't even have the choice to 2k out of it. 4 Don to work with, and we are going to do a Rush Zoro play. I really do like Rush Zoro in this deck. It's a good way to apply pressure early, and with leader ability, it does become a 6,000 power swing. We're going to start off with our 6,000 power swing for leader, which they do give us the 2k. Glad to get that out of their hand, and now a 6,000 power swing with our Zoro Rush. They will block with Rosinante, and that dies. That's cool with us. Our Zoro will likely get hit with a Ryuma this turn. That's just the way it goes sometimes. There we go. 4 cost 6,000 power Ryuma. That card is a beast in Perona. 6,000 at us with their Perona, and we are going to take that. We don't really have a lot of counter in hand, and I want to be a little bit careful with using it. We do have the 0 cost event now, which is nice, and we are going to be at 6 Don. It'll likely be a Yasab turn, but I'm just deciding whether or not I want to play down the 1 cost Uta Searcher and look for maybe another big body or a 2k. Unfortunately, we do not find a 2k, but we can choose between a 10 cost Pop Shanks and a Ben Beckman and a Yasab. I decide Ben Beckman's the way to go. It'll help us clear their Ryumas. We're going to do 1,000 with Yasab on our leader, another 1,000 with that extra Don using leader ability, and we'll swing 7,000 at them. Now, we're feeling pretty good. Next turn, we're going to be at 8 Don. Silver's Rayleigh could go crazy. We could also play Ben Beckman depending on the circumstances. We do have the Radical Beam and the 0 cost event for later on in the game as well. They're going to play down a Momonosuke, then use You Can Be My Samurai to draw 2 cards. They replenish that hand real quick. They're going to play down the Suru to minus Yasab by 2. Then play down the Hiyori, cheat out the Ryuma, and pop my Yasab. Feels kind of bad, but not really the biggest deal in the world. 6,000 at us now with their Ryuma. I say we 1k counter out of this, and we will give them the Marco 5 cost. I like that idea, keeping our life healthy. They can't swing into us with their leader because we are 6k. Now, I think a Rayleigh is the move. We'll minus the power of 1 Ryuma, then another Ryuma. Then we're actually going to pop the Momonosuke. That's what I'm leaning towards at least. Making it so they can't get value from it this turn. I decided to go with the Ryuma though. At the end of the day, getting rid of that Ryuma is helpful. We're going to swing into the other Ryuma that has minus 2,000 power with our leader, 5,000 at them. We could have used leader ability to do that, so that's a little bit of a misplay, just in case they 2k'd out of that. We're going to do a leader ability Don on Uta, then swing 3,000 into the Momonosuke, which they do give us. I'm really happy to be able to get rid of that Momonosuke this turn, just so they can't get more value out of it this current turn. They're going to do Ice Age on Ryuma, oh my god, on Rayleigh, giving it -5. It's now a 3 cost, which is the perfect target for Jack, so we'll see if they have a Jack in their hand. They're going to be at 9 Don, so they could play a Gecko and get it off the field with a Suru and maybe a Ryuma, or just a Ryuma in general. They're going to swing 5,000 at us, which we will counter with the Silver's Rayleigh. Now they're resting the Rayleigh. They're going to play down the Gecko Moria, bringing back a Rosinante blocker, and then the Ryuma to pop the Rayleigh. That feels bad, but we have the perfect counter to their 8 cost Gecko Moria. We're going to use our 10 cost KO Shanks, which is really helpful in this situation, and then swing 6,000 into debating their rested Ryuma or their life. I think either way, they'd probably block out of this with their Rosinante, so that's why we just swing into their Ryuma. I don't really think it mattered too much. Next turn, we're going to establish the 10 cost Shanks most likely, and then just like clear their Ryuma off board and then pressure life. We're in a pretty good spot, but them establishing another Gecko Moria would definitely be a little bit of a bummer. Just being able to spam out bodies, the blocker Rosinante, you know, it's rough out here when you're playing against black decks. They'll start with a 6,000 power swing into us with Ryuma, and we will 2k out of that. Hypothetically, if we took that 6k, they could just throw a bunch of down on their leader and swing big, and that would be annoying to get out of. We will take the 10k, or the 10k, oh my god, 5k swing from Perona, and just take that, which is a little bit silly. Maybe we should have gotten rid of the Ben Beckman or the 0 cost event, but the Ben Beckman can be very helpful later on in the game, getting rid of an annoying blocker. So that's why I decided to take that one. I didn't really want to get rid of it. Now we are in a really good spot, I think. We've got a ton of options this turn, which you love to see. We're going to start off with a 2,000 power swing into their Momonosuke, which it glitches a little bit here on the sim where it doesn't immediately KO the Momonosuke or show that they're going to use their Rosinante ability. That was just a little bit weird. Now, I'm thinking 10 cost Shanks is the move here, but honestly, 7 cost Newgate would also be a beast. 7 cost Ben Beckman would also be great. We're going to swing 6,000 into their 5,000 powered Ryuma. We'll see if they take this or use Rosinante's ability. We will be able to clear it if they did use their Rosinante's abilities. Now we're going to swing 12,000 with our Rush Shanks and then 12,000 with our KO Shanks. They're going to block out of that first one with Rosinante. They will take that second one, and I'll pass it back to them. We are probably going to protect our life pretty hard this next turn, as much as we can, really. We have the 0-cost event that we can use, and then we have 2 1Ks in hand. Love to see a 2K, but unfortunately no 2Ks available at the moment. Our Shanks does make it so their Gecko Moria is only an 8,000 power right now, which is great for us. We've got an epic board, but I'm still not convinced we're in the clear. They're just going to throw a bunch of Dawn on their Gecko and swing big into my Shanks. That's not going to work. We've got the 0-cost 3K event. That is perfect for us. They're going to play down the Rebecca, pick no cards to draw out of their life. Did they not have anything to take? I guess so. 5,000 at us with their leader. We will 1K out of that, and now we are in a great spot. We're going to go with the Newgate play, giving 1 Dawn to our leader, then resting our Newgate to pop the Rebecca, or I guess actually the Rosinante makes more sense. Then we'll go 12,000 with our first Shanks into the Gecko. They will block out of that with the Rebecca. Now we'll go 13,000 with our 10-cost Shanks swinging into the Gecko. That gets that off the board. We'll do our leader ability, give another Dawn to our leader, and swing 8,000 at them. They'll take that, and I think this is going to be GG's, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way they can come back from that. Good game. Perona's not really meta, though, so not the best indication of this leader, but I think that match went incredibly smoothly for us despite not seeing a lot of counter early game. Now we've got a matchup against Smoker. I'm interested to see how this deck does against Smoker, as black can be a little bit of a problematic color for us just because they're able to remove our bodies as we play them. We're going to play down the 2-cost OP01 Sanji on turn 1. This will allow us to apply some pressure early on in the game, which I think will be useful for us. Turn 2 for them, they'll start out with the brand new draw the Kuzan from OP02, which we should be able to remove with our Edward Newgate 7-drop, which is very nice if they do play it out. We're going to do a Uta search on our 4-Dawn play, drawing a Yasab. I think that's the move here. And then we actually have another Uta search that we can do. And this time, I think we go with the 10-cost Shanks. I think that makes a lot of sense to pop a Jack or a Gecko Moria they might play. Now we can use Sanji's ability to add 2 rested Dawn to him, take a life, and now we'll swing 7,000 at them. We're going to be able to do 7,000 2 times, which is pretty epic if you ask me. That's so epic. What? Oh my god, that was so cringe. I'm going crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Cut me some slack. Now we can do 7,000 with our leader. They took the first one. Will they take the second one? They're going to have to give us 2 cards out of hand if they want to get out of it. They got plenty of cards in hand, though, so that's not a problem. They will counter out of that. 5 Dawn for them to work with. Do we save the Tashigi? The Tashigi's a great card. They are going to go with the Kuzan. 6 Dawn for us, and we are not going to have an answer to that Kuzan, I don't think. We'll see if they swing into my Sanji here. They will. 4,000 with brand new into the Sanji, and then 5,000, I guess, into leader with their leader, and we are going to counter out of that. We don't want to go too far down in life. Nothing to deal with the Kuzan on this turn, but we can play Yasab to go up to a 6,000 power leader. Then I'm debating on using leader ability to give 1 Dawn to our Uta, swinging 3,000 at their brand new, just to get that off the board. So it's not annoying later on in the game. Now we'll give 1 Dawn to our leader, swing 7 again at their life, which feels really nice. They'll take that. They're down to 3. We do not have a lot of counter in our hand, but we're a 6,000 power leader this turn, which might make things awkward for them. Using their leader ability, they will be able to get to 6,000 power themselves, but yeah, not really too worried about the moment. I think this game's going relatively well. We'll be able to pop this Kuzan next turn. They're going to swing 5,000 at the Uta, minus 4 cost from our Yasab. That definitely feels bad. You hate to see it, but alas, there's nothing we can do. They're going to play down the Brook to pop my Yasab, RIP Yasab. Now they've got 4 Dons still to work with. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 4-cost blocker here like Borsellino or Rebecca. Or maybe they'll just throw it all on leader and swing big at us. My Spidey senses were right, and they will just play down the 4-cost Rebecca blocker. We'll see if they take anything from the trash and play something out. They have nothing to take back from their trash, which is nice for us, and they will play down the brand new, which will let them do a Navy search. They do draw the Tashigi from Starter Deck 19, which is a great card for them. That'll be annoying to deal with once I inevitably have to deal with it, but for the moment, I think we're all right. Since we're at 8 Don, I actually think Rayleigh will be the move here. We'll be able to put their Kuzan in an easily KOable range. We can pop their Rebecca. We can also minus the power of Brook. We can do a ton of things with this Rayleigh right here. We're going to get rid of that Rebecca. Now we're going to swing 2,000 into the Kuzan because we minused him by 3,000 with Rayleigh. 2,000 with Uta into the Kuzan definitely feels bad. They're going to counter out with a 2K. Are they going to counter out of the 6,000 swing into Kuzan? They'd be crazy to do that. I think they probably should just let that Kuzan go upon the first swing with Uta, just because getting rid of a 2K definitely feels a little bit bad. They're going to be at 9 Don, and Ice Age Gecko would hurt us right here. Or just this Tashigi with the Ice Age would feel bad as well. This Rayleigh is probably going to go this turn, but that's all right. We will have a 10 cost Shanks to drop next turn. We could also play our 10 cost KO Shanks to get rid of this Tashigi. We have Yasabs, we have Edward Newgates. We're in a really good spot. They aren't really going to be able to put a lot of pressure on us this turn just because we minused Brook by 2,000. And then, of course, they've got 3 Don left. So if they want to swing with Leader, they can go ahead and do that. If they want to put Don on Brand New or Brook, we can counter out of that with our Yasabs or 0 cost counter event perhaps. 3 Don on Smoker, they're going to be able to power themselves up by another 1,000, and I think we're just going to take this one, and it's going to be a 9,000 power swing at us. Before they swing into our life, though, with their Smoker, they are going to swing 3,000 at our Uta. Of course, we're going to let this go. We do not need that Uta anymore. RIP. Now we'll see a 9,000 power swing from their leader, which we will take. A 7 cost Edward Newgate, which isn't really too helpful at this point in the game. A Marco 5 cost, which is a little bit interesting, but again, I think we just go with a 10 drop Shanks here. Probably the Pop Shanks. I think that might be the move, getting rid of this Tashigi, or just the 10 cost Rush Shanks wouldn't be a bad idea either. I want to take some pressure off of our life, giving them not a lot of bodies to swing into us. Now we'll give a Don to our leader using leader ability and swing 6,000 into them. They got to have a 2K or at least give us 2 1Ks. Either way, we'll be happy with the result. They will take that, putting themselves down to 2 life cards. This is a close game, ladies and gentlemen. They don't have a big body on board, but of course Black plays Gecko Moria and they can come back into this game real quick. That would be tough for us to deal with. They're going to start off with a 4 Don Rebecca play. That is fine with us. They're going to draw the starter deck 19 Tashigi from their trash and then play down the brand new using Rebecca's ability. Them not being able to establish an 8 cost Gecko Moria is really good for us here. Off the brand new, they will draw the starter deck 19 Tashigi as well. Now they've got 2 of them, ladies and gentlemen. 6 Don for them to work with. A Sabo wouldn't be bad for them. I think a Sabo would be really strong, and then they could swing 6,000 with their leader at us. They are actually going to give 3 Don to their Brook and swing 7,000 at us, and I think this might be the time to use our 0 cost event. Trash a 7 cost Whitebeard and keep our life a little bit healthy. We won't be able to probably counter out of this next hit if they swing 8,000 at us with Smoker, so yeah, that's where my mind's at right now, trying to keep our life as healthy as possible. They're actually going to go 5,000 with brand new. I am happy they decided to go this route because we will be able to counter out of this attack and then their next swing with Smoker as well. So hey, we are perfectly happy for them to swing 5,000 at us. We'll give them the Yasab as counter, and then if they swing 6,000 with leader, we can give them Marco and Yasab. I definitely think that is the move here. Just give them 2 1Ks. It shows that we don't have any 2Ks in our hand, but that is perfectly fine. Now the question is, what do I play? Do I drop the 7 cost Newgate, which allows 1 Don to stay up for Radical Beam, or do I go 10 cost Shanks? I think 10 cost Shanks is going to be the move here. We're going to clear their board and first swing into their Brook for 6,000. The Brook is now 3,000 power. They might block with Rebecca this turn to keep that Brook alive, just because Brook is really strong, but at the same time, I'll be able to remove it eventually with one of my Shanks, so I think they are better off leaving that Rebecca standing for the next turn. Now the question is, do I put pressure on their life by swinging both my Shanks into their life, or do I guarantee safety by swinging into their brand news? I think I have to guarantee safety and swing into their brand news right here. It feels so bad to swing a 12,000 Shanks into a 2,000 power brand new, but hypothetically I could still lose here if I keep those brand news alive. So that's why I'm swinging into them. Call me crazy. I don't have any counter in hand, and they have the swings to potentially win the game. Now I'm just going to swing 12,000 into the Shanks after we cleared one of the brand news, just because I do not think they're going to swing with Rebecca at minus 1,000 power. I'll take my chances on that. They're going to take that hit. They're down to 1 life, and I will pass it back to them. I think them just swinging 6,000 at us and then playing down a Rebecca Sabo would be pretty strong here. They do have the Sabo, so their blockers are going to be immune from KO effects. They're going to be able to cycle their hand and look for their 2Ks. This is not good for us. I feel like I'm probably being a little bit over dramatic though. Now they're going to do 5,000 at us with brand new. This feels so bad that I have to take this. Here, it actually does make sense for them to swing to 5,000 swings. We get lucky. We get bailed out with a 0 cost 3,000 power event. We're able to minus their Smoker by 3,000, meaning that they can't swing into us this turn. That is the perfectly timed card. I don't know if it really makes a difference anyway. We're going to have two 12,000 swings, which I assume they'll block both of those. And then hypothetically, we could swing 15,000 with our leader. We're just going to start with our 12,000 swings, or actually we're going to play down the Uta Searcher. Finding a Lime Juice, I guess, would be best case scenario. It's a 2K on defense, and then also we could hypothetically use it to make it so they can't block with their Rebecca. I'm still a little bit nervous though about just how many cards they have in their hand and how many potential 2Ks they have. So I'm not going to play the Lime Juice. I'm just going to keep it in my back pocket and use it as a 2K counter. I am not sure if this is the right play. Probably not. Roast me in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, if you think I'm completely out of my mind and just whacked. Leave a dislike. Tell me I'm cooked. I'm washed. 12,000 at them with our leader, which they will take, which is good news for us, I think. Now we're going to go 12,000 into their life with our Rush Shanks. If they block out of this, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be GG's. Then we can do 12,000 with our other Shanks, leaving a Don up for Radical Beam, and then Lime Juice as just having a 2K in hand. I definitely think that should be enough defense in case they throw Don on their brand new, but if they have the counter to get out of this, then that makes things kind of awkward. That's why we're actually going to swing into the brand new here, or should we swing in life? I don't know if it really matters. 13,000 at the smoker. If they can counter out of this, that's just bad news for us, because then they'll be able to split Don between Sabo, brand new, and their leader, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to get out of all of those. If they do that, well then, it is what it is. We tried our hardest. They are going to block with Sabo, which is amazing news for us, and we will just pass it to them. Passing it back to them, they're just going to start off by putting a bunch of Don on their leader, swinging 10,000 at us, and at this point, it does not matter if we take this or not. We are in the clear. I think technically their correct play is to take this and tempt them to swing with their brand new instead of setting up another blocker potentially, but we'll just counter out of it. It doesn't really make a difference. We've got this game in the bag. They'll play down a brand new for 4 Don, leaving 2 Don up and pass it back to us. I don't think this really matters though. We'll start off with a 12,000 power swing from one of our Shanks. Even if they can counter out of that and not use their blocker, we just got the numbers. GG's. Next up, we have the game everyone's been waiting for, Shanks versus Luffy. A match of two very similar leaders in theory. Shanks is more of a defensive version of our leader. We are more of an offensive version of their leader. We are on the even curve, which means they are going to be able to play Yasab and Beckman on curve, but it also means that we will be able to play Rayleigh and 10-drop Shanks on curve, so that's very nice for us. We're going to start off with a 1-cost Uta Searcher. We are going to take the Lime Juice. There was also the Yasab to choose from, which would be a nice turn 3 play, but I think I'd rather have the 2K counter, so that's why I took the Lime Juice. 3 Don for them to work with. They're going to start off with a 5,000 swing into my life. I kind of want to counter out of this just to protect my life early, and I will give them the 5-cost Marco. In hindsight, I do kind of regret that. That would have been a nice turn 3 play, but I'm just kind of hoping that we will have another turn 3 play by the time turn 3 comes around. They're going to play the Hongo for 3 Don, which is annoying, but I think we'll be able to get rid of it somehow, some way. We're going to start off with a 6,000 power swing from our leader. Then we'll be able to play Zoro, use leader ability, and swing again for 6,000. We really love that play, especially against Shanks. This is a good way to apply some pressure early. They will use leader ability to bring us down to 5,000, then they will give us the 1K of counter. This is perfect. Our Zoro will now swing for 6,000, and they'll need to give us a 2K or take a life here. That's a pretty good spot for us to be in. They will give us the 2K counter Otama, and I do think that's a little bit of a mistake. They're already down to 3 cards in hand. With Shanks' ability, you can really play defensively, and they already countered out of 1 swing. I think they'd be okay to take another swing and just take that life card. 5 Don for them to work with. They will have the Yasab, which is really good for them. If I were them, I'd be resting Hongo, minusing Zoro, and then swing into it, which is exactly what they do. 6,000 to a 3,000. I do not think it makes sense to counter out of this, but maybe I'll be crazy. Live life on the edge, give them 2Ks. Is that the most ridiculous thing you ever heard? It might be, and I will just let it go. I decide to not be crazy for once and just keep the 2Ks in my hand. Now I don't really have any good options. I really wish I kept that Marco. Now I'm feeling a little bit stupid, but hey, it happens sometimes. We're going to give 3 Don to our Uta and swing into the Hongo for 5,000. If they want to use leader ability and give us a 2K, that is perfectly fine for us. They won't do that. They'll just let it go. And now we're going to swing 8,000 into their leader. They are at 6,000, so leader ability brings us to 7, and they could give us a 2k, but they'll just take that. They'll probably clear the Uta this turn with their Uta. That makes perfect sense to me. Next turn, we will be at 8 Don and can play the Rayleigh, which we really like. They're going to play the Lucky Rube for 4. Not being able to establish a 7-cost Whitebeard is very fortunate for us. That would have been an annoying card to deal with. 7,000 into our life with their Shanks. I think now we take this. We do get the 0-cost event, and we will trigger that minusing 3,000 from their Yasab. I'm just getting lucky with those 0-cost events, folks. What can I say? I've got divine luck. It's just in my blood. It's my destiny. Now they're gonna give 1 Don to Uta, swing 2,000 into our Uta, and we will let that go. Now it's a Rayleigh turn, ladies and gentlemen. We can minus the power of their Yasab and their Lucky Roo. We're gonna get rid of the Yasab. I think that's the move here, just because Yasab could get them more value next turn. The Lucky Roo, I'm not really too worried about. I'm not really gonna play any smaller bodies, hopefully, for the rest of the game. I do have another Rayleigh I'll probably will play next turn, and then after that, we'll go from there. Hopefully we draw into another big body. They're going to be at 9 Don. They could play a Dragon, which would apply a lot of pressure to us. They could play their own Rayleigh, which isn't the end of the world. They won't be able to pop our Rayleigh at least, so that's good news. For 7 Don, they will have a 7-cost Edward Newgate. That would have been good to play last turn. They won't be able to pop anything with it this next turn, but they will be able to give their leader a Rested Don with Newgate's ability. They'll give their leader 2 more Don and then swing 8,000 at us, which we will take. We've got a very good hand right now. We've got plenty of 2Ks. I'm thinking we do Otama into Rayleigh to pop this Newgate. That would definitely feel bad for them. The question is, how do I order this? We're going to do 8,000 first with our Rayleigh. See if they take this. They would have to give us a couple cards from hand. We love that situation. Take a life, give us cards from hand. Either way, we're happy. Now we're going to go Otama Rayleigh. This is a diabolical combo. Allowing us to pop an 8,000 power character is completely epic. Now we're going to go 7,000 with our leader into them. They might block with Lucky Roo here. They have not used leader ability, so they might also use it and then give us a 2k counter. I think that makes a lot of sense. Their hand might be bricked up, and they might not even have any 2ks, so they might have to give us 2 1ks as well, which would definitely feel bad for them. They're going to give us the 0-cost event. What did they trash for it? They trashed the starter deck 15 Port Castillace, so we're in a very good spot. Even if they drop the 10-cost Rush Shanks, we are going to be able to keep our Rayleigh alive, and I think that's what happened here. I think they misclicked to play the Rayleigh when they meant to play the 10-cost Shanks. Even if they played the 10-cost Shanks, I think we still have this game in the bag. They only have 1,000 counter in their hand. We would keep this Rayleigh alive, and then next turn, well, if they swing into our life with their Shanks, then we would get our own 10-cost Rush Shanks in our hand, and I think that definitely seals the game for us. If not, we can block her up with our Silver's Rayleigh. We can, I don't know, play a Marco if we want. We're in a very fine position, ladies and gentlemen, so is starter deck 1 Luffy better than Shanks? I'm just being silly. I don't think it is, but it's still a really fun deck to play. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the games I got for you. What did you think about them? If you've made it this far in the video, you are an absolute real one. Shout out to you. I appreciate you making it this far. What are your thoughts on this deck list? I would love to hear your opinions. Everyone in the comments always has good ideas, and I love hearing them. Again, my biggest takeaway from this deck list is maybe cutting the 9-cost Whitebeard and the 1-cost Choppers. Those cards I haven't really found a lot of success with, so they are on the chopping block. If you're not subscribed yet, what the heck are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, stay up to date with all of my uploads, and yeah, that's all I got for you today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. This has been the Johnny TCG video. Peace. And don't forget to subscribe.